It is wonderful times for Arsenal, and it's wonderful times for Mr. Trossard, who came in and has already won the trophy for best signing in January. He is destroying it for them. 27 appearances, 23 starts this season for Brighton and Arsenal. 8 goals, got a hat-trick against Liverpool. Of course, they're playing them this weekend. And he's overperforming his XG at 5.79. Importantly for Arsenal, 9 assists since he came through the door. As a QPR fan, I can only dream of watching 9 goals. So that is impressive stuff. 1.4 key passes per 90, and his dribble success rate is really solid as well. We've just done a video talking about how great Jesus is. Trossard's been even better, isn't he? In terms of sort of filling in gaps for Arsenal. There was another player called Mudryk. I don't know if you're aware of him, who went to Chelsea, and I wonder if he wishes he went to Arsenal. But buying Trossard has been an absolute masterstroke from Arteta, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think what a luxury for Arsenal to have a player like Leandro Trossard that can fill in those gaps, as you mentioned, or, play in different positions, especially when they had Jesus that was out. They needed someone that was able to fill in. Of course, they've got Nketiah as well. But I think the fact that Trossard had that ability to play across that front three, he is so good running down the channels. I'm really pleased for him that move came about. To go from Brighton, because he was a star player at Brighton. He was one of those, he was one of the reasons why Brighton were doing so well. Clearly they haven't missed him too much because they're still doing pretty well. Yeah. But I think, a great move for Trossard to sort of take that step up to go into a team like Arsenal, who are, fighting for this title. He is a real luxury for Mikel Arteta to have off the bench to start if he needs him to start. I do think Saka, fully fit, obviously starts over Trossard, but I think that gives them the option off the bench, and how sometimes those players can be even more vital than the starting players, because you need that that final push in the last half an hour of a game or something. Bring someone like Trossard on and he can change the game for you.
Yeah, we were talking about in that Gabriel Jesus video about the clever recruitment of Man City in terms of going for guys that have gone and done it in Zinchenko and Jesus, but kind of have got that next level and want to perform and be the key player. Trossard was a key player at Brighton. It was more of a sort of, the ability to have that exposure. Luxury is a great word there, and it's like he's like the modern luxury player, where he's got all the skills and he's great to watch. But he's almost sort of like, he's just there to catch the ball where, not literally, it's football, but he's there to sort of fill in where needed. He provides that luxury in terms of providing answers, because what's his best position?
Well, it's great business. I think it's one of the best signings, but I also think every player wants to play every game. Of course, I'm sure he'd wish he could start every single game. The quality they've got, that's not gonna happen. But I think he is able to fill in those gaps and add quality, and I think he feels appreciated. I don't think there's sometimes where you're on the bench and you might not feel as if you're appreciated. I think he really feels that he is the answer to a different problem that Arsenal might face, and I think Arteta believes that. If Saka isn't working for a period of game, or Martinelli isn't working, having someone like Trossard, who is a different player to those players, he's so good on the ball. You see him, he's such a clever and intelligent player, and I think he takes that responsibility as Saka's Saka, but I'm also an answer to some other problems that this Arsenal team might face. And I think he really is enjoying that position at a club the size of Arsenal, coming from Brighton. Those moves don't always work out, but this shows that a good pro can go and have a big impact in games and answer questions that other players might not be able to.
I think that's what's been interesting as well about Mikel Arteta, and the way that he has been able to deal with his players that are being benched or have to come on as substitutes. And it's interesting to know from you as well as a footballer, for someone like Trossard, knowing that, if I don't know how Mikel Arteta will speak to him about this, but if you know that you're going to come on for half an hour at the end of the game and that is your half an hour to shine, do you then think, right, this is when I'm going to be at my absolute best for this full half an hour, rather than having to sort of pace yourself throughout the game? Because obviously you have to keep those levels up for a full 90 minutes if you know you're going to be needed for that full 90 minutes. Whereas if he's going to be told, right, half an hour, give it absolutely everything. What would you prefer, especially as a forward player?
As someone who's been a sub a lot in my life, I think if you're appreciated and you're coming on to change games, that's very much different to being a bench player and just coming on to fill gaps here and there. I think he really feels appreciated and feels that his skill set can go and change games. And I think he's coming on to those games really fired up. He's chasing a league title for Arsenal. He's a big part of their success. That number of assists, I think he really feels that whatever he's asked to do for this team, he's going to do the best of his ability. And I think he knows that he will play games. He's going to play a lot of football for Arsenal. So it's just keeping that mindset that the bigger picture is Arsenal are chasing a league title. I'm a huge part of that. How can I just keep adding and helping this team?
The season management from Arteta is, I think, slightly enforced, but it's one of those ones where you kind of start to think, well, maybe it is their year. Because with Trossard coming in, the difference that you see with, say, Chelsea, who brought in a lot of players as well, is they're all valuable players, but I don't think they feel valued, any of them, because they're not sort of guaranteed to play. If you look at Man City, which Arteta will be fully aware of during his time there, there's often players that sort of come into the team around Christmas time and there's all these fixtures are really important. Or someone like Phil Foden, I know Phil Foden's had his appendix out recently, but Phil Foden sort of came out for a bit and other players were kind of needed and valuable during that little run of the games, and then he shifts it back across. I think it's been slightly enforced here where Trossard's come in because Gabriel Jesus has been out, but now with everyone fit, it's kind of perfect because that, like you say, that sort of maybe the ego of it all and feeling like, oh, hang on a minute, because I think now you've got a question where you're going to go, okay, wow, we've got a lot of great attacking players here. Who's going to start? I think two things matter here. One, you can see the finish line here, and they've all played a part. They've all been important, so they can be about the greater goal. The second thing is the fact that I just think that a player that comes on for 30 minutes, like you say, starting is such a fluid kind of like concept now, because you are going to make those changes every single time. So every single one of those players are really, really happy, and you're seeing that in the performances there. If you did have to pick three, moving from who are still your starting three? Do you think Trossard is, although he's been brilliant, it's one of those where you start to go, look, you've been wonderful, but I'm going to need you to take a backward step? Because I guess the one problem that they do have, and it's not really a problem, is that it's all about these Premier League games now. It's not about the Europa League, you're out. It's not about the FA Cup, you're out. Yeah. So do you think there's anything that Arteta needs to worry about there? And who will be, going into that Man City game, which will be a few weeks away, who will be that starting three? Do you think he'll revert to type and put Trossard there? Because before Saka didn't play this last game, 64 of the last 67 games he's started. Mm-hmm. So it's tricky, isn't it? Because he has been so key, but at the same time, I feel like he would probably get put to the side a little bit now.
But just to your point, if you look at the teams who have won the league in the last few years, super sub, I'm not going to say a super sub, but everyone has had a player or two players who have come in and there's not that much fall off. I think if you look outside of the top 2 or 3 clubs, when subs come on, the fall off feels quite large. And I don't know if that's mental or just people who aren't involved, less minutes. It's harder to play at the level of the starting 11. I think Arteta's got in a Trossard someone who, wherever he's going to play, the level's not going to drop off too much and the mentality is going to be right. But I still think he goes with people like Saka, and Jesus for me has to start. So and Martinelli has been so exciting on the left. So I think, but also who would you rather bring on to change a game?
Yeah, Leandro Trossard? I think that is exactly what it is. It's the starting three would be a Saka, Jesus, Martinelli, and then you've got a Trossard. Should you need him at 50 minutes, should you need him at half time, whatever, he's going to be ready to come on. And then if there are players in that front three that are tired or they need to change it up, then Trossard can start and then they can switch it around. But I think what Arteta will go through, obviously Saka's had that rest sort of coming off the bench and had a couple of minutes. I think it will be back to a Saka, Jesus, Martinelli, and Trossard will shine like he always does.
Yeah, because I think that's a good point as well. We go, as much as getting tired is tiring the opposition. And so if someone's going to come on and change the game, you probably want someone who can pick up the pace of the game quickly, have that football IQ, and have that composure when you need it. And Trossard will be able to do all of those three. You've got a lot more sort of energy and pace about the other guys. And so having them for 60 minutes and then bringing on that little bit of class with Trossard might be the way to go. But I think it's going to be a game-by-game thing, because there's going to be games where you're just going to need that movement against a low block, or against teams that are going to come and have a go. You're going to twist it up as well. But it's looking good for him, isn't it?
Well, they've got a tough run in Arsenal. Very, very, very tough.
You've been desperate to say this the whole time.
No, I just think if
you still think City will do it.
I still think it's advantage City.
Yeah, you're gonna
They're
say
a team. I still think it's advantage City. It's a team who's won so many games. I think it really hinges on that Champions League for City. Do they slightly take their eye off the Premier League if they get through that game? And they could win 3 trophies this year, Man City, and their run-in is much more favourable than Arsenal's. I'd love Arsenal to do it, but City's run, I don't think City will lose a game in the Premier League that Arsenal game. If City win that, can't see them dropping any more points throughout the season. Arsenal, looking at the run, there's the Newcastle they have to play.
Yeah.
They've got a derby in Chelsea. They've got Liverpool. I don't see City dropping points. I think it really comes down to that game versus Man City.
The excitement for that game. I think that will be one of the most highly anticipated games, coming up for a long time. And I can't wait to see it. And how great that the title race isn't done. How great that we've still got all these games left to play. It's the same with the relegation battle. I've never seen a relegation battle so close with so many teams in the mix, and it could go any way. And it's the same with the title race. I think it is, I agree, advantage to City. Even though they are obviously a couple of points behind them, I don't think there's anyone, unless you're an Arsenal fan, that can confidently say Arsenal are going to win the league. I think it's going all the way down to the wire. That will be the game to watch, and I think that will ultimately decide who's going to win it.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.